So let's begin with our prayers. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Roopa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before we begin, let's pay our obeisances to Shri Radha Govinda. We'll do a summary, go over the summary once, and then we can start from where we stopped. Okay, so Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, chapter 6. So first 4 verses talk about advancing in yoga through detached work. Then Yoga Ruda stage, giving up work. Then further stages in the practice of yoga. Necessity of controlling the turbulent mind. Mind, it's very, very important. Mind is very important. Controlling the mind is very important in yoga practice. The destination of the unsuccessful yogi, the topmost yogi. So Krishna mentioned the process of Ashtanga Yoga in the previous chapter. So here he's going to talk a lot about it. Then last week we also discussed the yoga ladder. The beginning stages are called Yoga Rurukshu stage. The beginning stage is Yoga Rurukshu stage. The advanced stage is Yoga Ruda stage. There are so many practices, and to perfect this Ashtanga Yoga, it is to perfect and to become successful, it's not easy. We discussed that also. And then what happens to the unsuccessful yogi? Krishna will answer that also. So let's move on. So these are the stages of Ashtanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. We discussed this. So I think this is where we stopped. Would anyone want to read this? What is Yama? What is Niyama? All this is explained in this. Can someone read this, please?
I'll read it, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Yama, he should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. Niyama, temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation. Asana, lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin. The seat should neither be too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me. Pranayama. Practice stopping the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So he has to lay kusha grass and then cover it with deer skin. Deer skin is supposed to, it won't attract insects and snakes and all. There's some reason. That's why they use that. And then it should not be too high, not too low. And there are a lot of rules. And after practicing all this, then how the person should sit. And all this is there. It is not easy. Then we'll move on and see what next. Pratyahara, Dharana, and Samadhi. Only 3 points I'll read. Cessation of material existence, Pratyahara. Then Dharana, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence. Devoid of all material desires, he is said to have attained yoga. And this Dharana stage is almost close to Dhyana. He is actually, he doesn't have any material desires at this point. The next is Dhyana. As a lamp in a windless place, he does not waver. Okay. So the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. So the goal is to attain samadhi. One is never shaken even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So little description of what are these stages. Okay, again, the yoga ladder in a brief way. We already discussed this. So what is yoga basically? It is linking our consciousness with the supreme absolute truth. So that's what they're trying to do, sit and link their consciousness with the supreme absolute truth, and that they need single-minded attention for that. So it took so long for them to get to that samadhi stage. So Ashtanga yoga is like that. So if we saw that the lowest rung is animal life, then how a person, slowly goes up from karma kanda to karma yoga, sakama karma, nishkama karma yoga, we read, then jnana yoga. If the linking process is empirical, predominantly empirical, it is called jnana yoga. Then if it is in devotional service, then devotional relationship, then that is bhakti yoga. So the ultimate stage is bhakti yoga, which has full spiritual knowledge. That is nothing but Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says that, that is the ultimate perfection of all yogas. So very briefly, it's given here. All other yogas are progression towards the destination of Bhakti Yoga. This is the hierarchy. So we can take the steps, or we can, take the elevator and take up to the process. So who would like to recite this verse?
Shall I, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Nati asnatastu yogosti, nachaikantam anasnata, nachati swapna silasya jagrato naiva charjuna. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So for the yogis, regulation of diet and sleep is very much recommended. They should not eat more than what is required to keep the body and soul together. And Prabhupada also writes, there is no necessity for human beings to eat animals because there is ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruits, and then everything, so much food is available, which are in the mode of goodness. Animal food comes in the mode of ignorance, and then drinking, smoking, and then eating stale food, all that. There are some rules which they should not follow. If that's why Krishna conscious person, what he does, he offers everything, Krishna has already told what he consumes. So we offer only that to Krishna, and then it becomes sanctified, and then they consume. If that is not done, a person will suffer sinful reactions, and also it is polluted food. Basically, what we are consuming is polluted food if it is not in the mode of goodness, and if it is not offered to Krishna. And they cannot, execute perfect yoga by just living however they want, if they're not following any rules, not sleeping also, it should be only for 6 hours, 6 hours is enough. That's what Prabhupada writes. Some people may have some additional needs, but usually that's what is recommended. Too much sleeping, being lazy, all that will not help us to progress in our spiritual life. They cannot perform yoga. And fasting also. A Krishna conscious person fasts only on Ekadashi or whenever it is recommended in Shastras. They won't simply say, I will fast until death because you are not, satisfying my demands. That is not at all recommended in our Shastras. That is also not in the mode of goodness. All that is not recommended. There are politicians and people who just simply, torture their body. They fast because they have some things to attain, but it is not recommended. You should not, this body is a gift from God, right? It is a gift given by Krishna. So we have to be very careful how we maintain the body and how we use all our senses, everything. So it's very important. Okay. Can somebody read these translations? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exceptions all material desires, born of mental speculation, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. 6.26 also, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So a person who is practicing this kind of yoga, Ashtanga yoga, he has to be very, very determined. We cannot give up. We easily give up. We start something, then say, we do that for our New Year resolutions. It's become a joke, right? Like that. We can't start and stop. It's not like that. They have to be very determined, very, very patient. It may take a long time to perfect Ashtanga yoga, but they have to be very determined. That's how, if somebody who's working to understand the absolute truth, they have to understand that it's not, it's not going to be a cakewalk. So they are like that. They're very, very determined. There is one very nice example to understand how they are. There is this sparrow. Have you heard about the sparrow story? Sparrow who lost her eggs. Have you heard?
Yes, Mataji, to the ocean.
Yes, actually she lays her eggs on the seashore of an ocean and the waves will carry all the eggs away. Then when all the eggs are gone, she's so upset. She asked the ocean, give my eggs back. The ocean did not reply at all. Did not even consider her appeal. So she was very, very angry. She wanted her eggs back at any cost. So she said, I'm going to empty you. And she, with her beak, she was taking one drop of water from a small beak and trying to empty the ocean. She kept on. She did not stop at all. Didn't give up. So everybody was laughing. But Garuda saw that. And then Garuda felt very compassionate. He asked her, why are you doing this? And then the sparrow said, I want my eggs back. So Garuda actually told the ocean, you return our eggs or I will dry up the ocean. So the ocean became very frightened because Garuda is capable of doing anything and returned the eggs. So the sparrow became very happy. So it is possible to succeed in our spiritual life if we are that determined. It's just an example, but we get the point. So God helps those who help themselves. They say, like that our efforts are also very important. That's what it means. Like how Yashoda Mata, she did not give up at all. Yashoda, she's trying to tie Krishna. She was getting tired, but she, that rope, it was very long. She was trying. She did not give up at all. But then Krishna himself thought, okay, my mother, she's getting very tired. Let me, help her to tie myself, So his mercy is also very important. Our efforts, he's seeing our efforts. If we take one step, it seems he will take 10 steps or much more. So he's also eager to help us. Prabhupada says that, our efforts should be always there. So we'll read this one. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. We can't even do simple things, right? If somebody says you will be successful, just do this much. Simple things in Kali Yuga. And imagine this. So much difficulty. So what they're talking about, Pratyahara stage now. The yogi has to stop slowly all the sense activities with intelligence and conviction. And if the mind is controlled, he will be situated in trance. Because controlling the mind is, that's the major issue. It is not easy. Arjuna is going to tell now. He says, the nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady. He knows that. If a person like Arjuna cannot control the mind, then what about us? So, but it is possible by practicing Krishna consciousness. That point Prabhupada says, you can actually control your mind by following the rules and regulations in Krishna consciousness. Whatever the Guru is recommending for us, if we follow that, we can actually, get rid of all our sins. We won't commit any more sins. We get, really, really purified properly. No, it's all Sukruti. So the yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. This is actually happening in Krishna consciousness, right? If we keep on chanting, if we keep on singing his kirtan, hearing is very important. They say hearing from the right authority. If a person is, talking from something that is coming from the parampara system. Like we are discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is. So we are actually discussing the correct version of the scriptures. Otherwise, there are many people who just give their own version, their own mental speculation. That is not how it should be. So if we constantly hear more and more from the correct authority in the association of devotees, what will happen? We will attain the highest perfection. Here they're talking about Ashtanga Yoga, but actually this can be attained easily by just chanting and following everything what is recommended for us. So he is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme. See, all this will happen in Ashtanga Yoga after it could take so many years also. Then he will realize, I am part and parcel of this absolute truth. Okay, and who am I? All this they will realize, but it will take time. And thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. So what is self-realization actually? Self-realization means knowing our constitutional position in relation to the Supreme. We should know what is our relationship. We are parts and parcels of this Supreme Personality of Godhead, and our position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. That is actually self-realization. And practicing that also, one theory is one thing, but realizing that and living according to that is another story itself. So, it's a practice. So thus the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. So see, transcendental loving service to the Lord, that is the highest stage, and he will get there one day. In the material energy, now what happens? We serve the material senses. But when in the spiritual energy, we serve the Supreme Lord directly. So in both cases, we are actually living entities serving the Lord. Because whether like Prabhuji says, you are outside the jail or inside the jail, outside the prison or inside the prison, the rules of the government only are, controlling us. So like that, we cannot escape Krishna. Okay. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. We discussed this in 5th chapter also, right? Do you remember any verse that is, conveying this message? Pandita Samadarshina. Sunacheva Swapakecha. Pandita Samadarshina. This verse is from 5th chapter, right? So he looks at everybody equally. He sees like that. He's a perfect seer because he sees Krishna in the heart of every living entity, believer and non-believer. In the heart of atheist also, he knows there is Krishna. So a yogi actually who is very, very, exalted devotee, he actually can see that. All living entities are servants of God. He knows this. And Krishna is neutral, he's like a mother. He's not like this person doesn't believe in me, or this person I don't want to, care for him. Nothing like that. Even Duryodhana got his sunlight, water. He had all the facilities that other living entities were getting. Like that, he is very merciful and he is the source of everything. So he's always waiting for us to make, connection with him. So it's just that we have forgotten. So now we are getting chance, we have to make use of this opportunity. This is also some kind of, we are very fortunate actually to come in touch with Prabhupada's books and all these classes and everything. So we should really be, take this up very seriously. So in 7th chapter also, we learn that, the Lord has, Krishna, the Lord has two energies primarily, the spiritual energy and the material energy. We all actually belong to the superior energy, but we are conditioned by the inferior energy. That's why we call it marginal energy. We discussed that in the previous class. For one who sees me everywhere, and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Nothing exists without Krishna. So everything is a manifestation of Krishna's energy. So that is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Impersonalists may say something, Mayavadi may say something, but a personalist, whatever. But the Bhakta is a personalist also, but for him, everything is Krishna's energy. The Brahman is also Krishna's energy. So if somebody wants to attain, that merge into the Brahman, he knows that also is Krishna's energy only. So he understands, that nobody can be without Krishna. So he is everywhere, is in everybody's heart. So a yogi who is practicing, meditation, concentrating on the super soul, will see within himself that there is Vishnu in his heart. That Vishnu that he sees is actually Paramatma, and he has this Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. He's holding with 4 hands. He's holding conch shell, wheel, club, lotus flower. He sees, and he doesn't even blink. The Paramatma doesn't blink, keeps on staring like this. So that's what the yogi can see. If he attains that stage, he will actually see. Once he sees that, he becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna. He knows, oh, I just saw something. Narad Muni also saw. But he did not perform Ashtanga Yoga. His was a mercy, We'll discuss that in one of the slides. His name appears. So Vishnu is not different from Krishna. So a person who actually realizes this, who actually sees Vishnu within his heart, he actually knows, now he knows, oh, there is Krishna, and I can actually attain his association. He from there he makes progress. Slowly he'll go to Bhakti Yoga, he'll fall in love with Krishna, and he will want nothing but Krishna. So what do we understand by all this? This stage can be attained by Krishna consciousness, which is the highest stage of trance. This Samadhi stage can be attained just by chanting, like how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us kirtan, do kirtan, do hear, and then in the association of devotees, chant, and also preach. That way, our practice becomes perfect. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. So actually, happiness and distress, see, a perfect yogi is also the best philanthropist. People do charity, right? But a perfect yogi can actually see, he wants to give, help them. We can see Prabhupada only as the best example. He saw all the hippies living such a dirty life, right? He gave them his mercy. He actually converted them into disciplined, Krishna conscious Vaishnavas. So he is a friend to everyone. He does not think this person is a sinner, this person is dirty, oh, he has a different skin color, it does not belong to my country. Nothing. He's a perfect yogi. He knows, I have to help this person. Somehow I must try to raise his consciousness. If that is internally change happens, mind is clear, heart is clean, then slowly everything changes. That person will not have this tendency to commit mistakes, and he will also become an asset to the society. So this shows how important it is to become Krishna conscious and also try to help others also to become Krishna conscious. And he will not envy anyone. That envy is not even there in a yogi. So a person who goes to a secluded place and sits and meditates, he may not be a perfect devotee, and he may be doing it for his own selfish reasons. But a Krishna conscious, exalted devotee is not like that. He will stay among people and try to help them also progress in their spiritual path. So here, okay. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I and the super soul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. And here, this is from the purport. Vishnu is one, and yet, this is from the Smriti Shastra. Vishnu is one, and yet he is certainly all-pervading by his inconceivable potency. In spite of his one form, He is present everywhere as the sun appears in many places at once. This is from Brahma Vimohan Leela, this image. Actually, in Krishna book, if you have read this pastime, Brahma actually kidnaps all the Gopas, and then he finds out. For him, it is just a moment, but when in earthly time, it is 1 year. So after 1 year, when he comes back and sees Krishna has expanded himself into so many Gopas, and nothing has changed. All the parents think their children are with them. Nothing has changed. So he thinks, oh, this is the Lord himself. And then he'll surrender and he will apologize actually. So the Lord is inconceivable potency, and then he's present in so many different hearts. His energies are everywhere. Very, very difficult to understand Krishna. But we should just remember that, this is him. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. Like that. So our cause, of all the distress that we are facing is because we forget all this. We forget our relationship with Krishna. We forget that everything is his energy. Without him, nothing can move. So, that's what is causing our distress. And happiness is when we know Krishna, completely, that he is in control. So he will, he is the one. Without his sanction, nothing happens. So we just have this minute independence, which we can use in his service. And then he is the supreme enjoyer. But, by satisfying his senses, we also become happy. So once we know he is the proprietor, he is the enjoyer, he is the best friend, sincerest friend we have, then we also automatically become happy. Then section 4, necessity of controlling the turbulent mind. Although control of mind is undoubtedly a difficult process, nevertheless, control of mind is essential and obtainable only by constant practice and detachment. How will this happen? The constant practice for all the Krishna conscious people? By hearing. Hearing is very important. The more we hear, the more we can understand, we'll be detached from our material desires, and also all our misgivings. Everything will get cleared. Heart will get purified. Mind also will get purified. More faith in Krishna, the faith will grow. The more we hear, more faith. But Ashtanga Yoga is not practical at all, especially in this age. It's not at all possible for us in Kali Yuga. So it's better to engage our mind fully in Krishna by Krishna consciousness. Now some examples to say, some images here, just to show that Arjuna is not an ordinary person. He had very good concentration. We knew that when he was a student of Dronacharya. That time itself, there are so many instances where we see that he was a great student, amazing concentration, and he's son of Indra. He's not a normal person. He fought with, and also he's Naranarayan Rishi. The Naranarayan Rishi, they are eternal associates. He's an eternal associate of Lord Krishna. So, and then here, next image, it shows he fought with Lord Shiva, and Shiva actually gave him Pashupatastra. He was very pleased with this fight. So Arjuna was an epitome of human excellence. Prabhupada says that somewhere. It's given in Bhagavad Gita also, that he was not at all an ordinary person. He's a very exalted devotee of the Lord. All his, his questions and him being under delusion, all this is Krishna's arrangement. Otherwise, Arjuna already knows who is Krishna. He's always been with him. We usually forget to see this divine touch in Arjuna. Somebody says, who is Arjuna? We say Arjuna was a great brother. He was a great student. He was a great warrior. We glorify him like that. But actually, he's not so ordinary also, because Naranarayan Rishi, they perform amazing activities to destroy the adharma. So Narayana, they are like sages. Nara is an ancient sage. He's forever with Narayan. So he helps Narayan in destroying Adharma. So he has amazing qualities, and it's not easy to be, with Krishna and helping him in his activities. So he's a very, very exalted person. Okay, one verse here. Who would like to recite?
I'll recite Mataji.
Yes,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Yes.
Arjunovacha yoayam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchala tatvat sthitim sthiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So he's telling, 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had better facilities and he was a very strong person. He used to shoot arrows even in the dark. So he was like that. And he's telling, it's not possible by me. He thinks he's incapable of Ashtanga Yoga. He's telling. So ordinary people like us leaving home, going into the secular, it's not, Ashtanga Yoga is not for women. But I'm just saying, if a man wants to perform, it's not easy. You cannot go into jungle and sit like that in a secluded place. Sitting inside the house only, we complain about so many things. Lizards are coming, mosquitoes are coming. Imagine there, your food, diet, everything is changed once you go into the forest. It's not easy, and focusing and any little disturbance also, you should not be disturbed. Pratyahara. That you see, go through the different stages of Ashtanga Yoga, it will tell us how difficult it is. And simple and practical things that we can do for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that itself people find very difficult to do in Kali Yuga. So definitely Ashtanga Yoga is not for us. And whoever is imitating this yoga and they think they are doing Ashtanga Yoga, Prabhupada says they are actually ignorant because they don't know what is Ashtanga Yoga. Because the goal of Ashtanga Yoga is something else, to attain the absolute truth. Okay, so this is a very important shloka. This is where Arjuna is saying it is difficult. Who would like to recite this one?
Shall I, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji.
Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavatritam tasyaham nigraham manye vayur eva sudaskaram.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. If there is a line on A, that you have to drag. Otherwise, it is Chanchalam. That's all. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavad dridham. There is a dot under D. So that D is like the only. There's no dot. So it is dridham. Like that. Tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudush. Yes has a dot under. So it is sh sound. Sudushkaram. Like that. So what he is saying is, he says, for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think is more difficult than controlling the wind. So it is more difficult than controlling the wind, he's saying. So that shloka is very important in this chapter. Just to understand that, if Arjuna is saying this, he cannot, if he finds himself incapable of that. So, but Krishna, the mind is more difficult to control. We have seen hurricanes, and you have seen, right, in some of the countries, how much they suffer. If this happens, the whole city has to evacuate. They evacuate and go to a safe place. And he's saying he can control that wind, but not his mind. Even Prahlad also says that. He says, we always look for an enemy outside. This person is causing trouble. That person is hurting me. That's this. But Prahlad says, enemy is inside only. Enemy is our mind. So our own mind, if it is not controlled, it is like the greatest enemy. It will ruin our life. It will waste our time and everything, our life, our mission, our goal, everything can get spoiled if the mind is not listening to us. So that is given in Bhagavatam. In Prahlad Maharaj's pastime, it is given, and Prabhupada also is saying that in the puppet. So real yoga means meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his orders. So this is happening in Krishna consciousness, because following Guru's orders means following Krishna's orders. Okay, another next verse.
Shall I, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shri Bhagavanuvacha asamshayam mahabhavo mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha gruhyate. Abhyasa and vairagya, the senses can be controlled by right practices and detachment. Bhagavad Gita 6.35. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, he says all this, son of Kunti, Bharata, Dhananjaya. He's encouraging see, the language is so beautiful. He's a perfect teacher. He's telling all is great. He's saying you're a very great person. He's actually encouraging him. It's so nice, right? The way Arjuna asks questions, the way Krishna answers, the conversation is so beautiful to read again and again. It is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind. He's trying to be very nice. He's saying, yes, I agree, it is difficult. Krishna himself is saying that. But it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. In material world, what happens? The student says something, the teacher will lose his mind. He'll get very angry and say, what are you telling? I'm telling something, you're telling something. He may not convey the message properly. But Krishna is like empathy, yes, it is difficult, but it's possible. How do you do that? The practice and by detachment. You can actually control your mind. He's actually telling him. So devotee actually engages in 9 types of devotional service. You do know what those are? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, right? Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So Shravanam, there are examples for this. Parikshit Maharaj is just sitting and listening. That is also devotional service. What he's doing is sitting, just complete attention. He's hearing. He's gone into the pastime so deeply. It seems Shukadev Goswami can actually, Shukamuni can see the expressions on Parikshit Maharaj's face. He says, when he says, now Krishna will be tired, now the demon is coming, and then Putana came to kill he's showing anxiety on his face. He knows this Lord Krishna was a charioteer for his grandfather. That means when Krishna was a baby, nothing happened to the baby. He knows very well what happened, how Krishna helped his grandparents. He knows Pandavas. In spite of that, he was so much immersed in those words of Shukamuni. It seems he was making expressions, fully engaged, and he was asking questions also. So that is also devotional service. Just Shravanam is also devotional service. He was not doing anything else, right? He was not massaging his feet or doing any other service, nothing. So this is also part of that. If you are hearing some lectures or participating in class or attending Bhagavatam class, this is also part of devotional service. Kirtanam. Kirtanam is Shukadev himself. This Kirtan doesn't mean singing alone. It means glorifying the Lord's pastimes, glorifying Lord, talking about Krishna. That also is Kirtanam, Smaranam, and then Padasevanam. There are examples for all of these. Then hearing actually helps us get to become more attached to Krishna, and it also helps us to detach from all these unnecessary material desires will go away. Our faith will increase. We get purified. So that's how it is. Impersonal spiritual growth, detachment, through that it is not at all easy. Impersonalism is not easy. Krishna says such a person may take a long time to attain him. So it may take so many births, actually, lifetimes, hundreds, thousands of births. So what is easy is devotional service. It is like we don't even have to ask someone, am I doing the right thing? Am I actually progressing? Roopa says we can check how, because a hungry person, when he eats, he knows, right? Hunger actually satisfies our hunger also. It nourishes us also. And we are feeling, satisfied. So we don't have to ask the neighbor, do you think I'm still hungry? No, we ourselves can see. Like that, when we are progressing, we'll see some changes in ourselves. And we'll be very joyful. Devotional service is performed with a lot of joy. There is transcendental satisfaction, not just satisfaction, transcendental satisfaction. We can't even explain. And we'll become detached. from material objectives. For surviving in this world, to manage our body and soul, we have to work, we have to earn, all that is fine. But we know our goal now. So we'll become very, very careful with how we conduct ourselves, how we live our life, what we do. Everything changes. So Krishna's opinion, for one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. Mind is very important. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Similarly, yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. That is why they say follow the regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, do that, this. Why? Because if we are doing whatever, I'll do whatever I want. I'll sleep for 20 hours. I'll eat everything. I'll do. But then I want to progress in my spiritual life. It won't happen. Mind will not listen. There is no progress at all. It says, while engaging the mind in material enjoyment, and you're trying to still practice yoga, it's like pouring water. It says, right? Trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. How will it light? It won't. Okay. The person Bhagavata and the book Bhagavatam. These two really, really help us. 5 minutes with a person Bhagavata is sometimes can ignite a fire, that other person will become a devotee. It will be so that person also will be ready to receive. And this person is already very elevated. He can make the other person a devotee. So he's telling, Krishna is very clear about what he said. Okay, let's go on. This is Shaubari Muni. Have you heard about him?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay,
He got distracted by seeing the fish swimming.
Yes, ma'am.
And then he got married after that.
Yes, he went to the king and said, I want to marry your daughter. And then he was looking, which princess will marry him, the way he was looking. But he had powers. He could actually look beautiful. By using all those mystic power, he looked very nice. So those daughters married him. So that's what happened to him. Unsuccessful transcendentalists obtain either heavenly enjoyment followed by an aristocratic birth if they are slightly advanced, or birth in a family of wise transcendentalists that bring them immediate further training if they are more advanced. So what happens to the unsuccessful yogi? This question was asked by Arjuna. He's asking Krishna, now what will happen to the unsuccessful yogi? Tell me what will happen. So he's saying, if it is after a short while, what will happen? He will go to the heavenly planet and come back. And if after a long time, if he's actually qualified, but Krishna, as Krishna says, Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mato bhayat. So either he'll be born in a family of wise transcendentalists among Vaishnavas, or he will be born in a very rich family. That way he'll get a chance to advance further. So if somebody is like Prabhupada himself was born in a Vaishnava family, and we see even Parikshit Maharaj is coming from a great family. His Arjuna and all these other Pandavas, all the Pandavas, they were all Vaishnavas. They were very great devotees of the Lord. So he has both. He's a royal blood, and at the same time he's among devotees. So that's very fortunate. So he got a chance to liberate himself very nicely. What happens to the unsuccessful transcendentalist? Although he begins the process of self-realization with faith, he later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism. So, a person can pursue self-realization by the path of knowledge, jnana, and or Ashtanga Yoga, which is auspicious also. But Maya is very, very strong. A person who is in already a jnana, is gnani, trying to gather knowledge and speculate and all this, Maya can defeat him. He may not become a devotee for so many more maybe thousands of years. So temptations are there, always there, right? So Prabhupada says, following this transcendental path is like declaring war on the illusory energy. It's not easy. It's very, very difficult. O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a raven cloud with no position in any sphere? This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. Okay. So, he's very inquisitive now. He's asking. So, but Krishna, in the second chapter only itself, he said, little endeavor, effort. Spiritual life is not like we are waiting for some end result. Every little effort, every little endeavor we put in, we are taking one step closer to Krishna. It is like that. So everything, it's not like we didn't, if we write an exam and we get 50% in this birth, next birth we can start from 50%. We don't have to write again from 0%. It's like that. Krishna has an account. He says, no, you already done this for me. So, he'll help us to go one step ahead. So that gives us hope. This is Ajamila. We know Ajamila's pastime. Who would like to recite this one?
I'll recite Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashas Tasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Kaschid Durgatim Tata Gachati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So, Hare Krishna. So, human beings can be divided into regulated people and non-regulated people. So, in the scriptures, we have all these prescribed duties and all mentioned so that, the whole society could benefit. A person who is not following all these rules is just simply living for sense gratification. What is happening? He'll be full of animal propensities. And then again, he'll do all inauspicious things and he'll remain in the material existence forever. He'll get one body, he'll become a fly, then become an animal, he'll become a something. He'll continue his journey here and wonder why I am suffering forever. So that's how it is. So that is why it's very important for a person. This is not Krishna consciousness. I'm talking about all the rules that were given for the Varnashrama Dharma, all the prescribed duties given in the Vedas. They were all supposed to help us so that we make progress and go back to Godhead. If a person does not follow prescribed duties, then he'll, suffer forever and ever. That's all. Nothing auspicious about it. The unsuccessful yogi. Again, same point. Pious birth into good family revives the divine consciousness in early stage of life. Naturally attracted to the yogic principles. There are some examples. This is Jada Bharat actually. He actually remembered his previous birth. His divine consciousness was revived. So all those activities which lead us towards self-realization are all auspicious. So Ashtanga Yoga is also auspicious. But anybody who is not even trying to make progress in spiritual life, they have to fear degradation. Prabhupada says they have to have this fear because they don't know where they're going next and what will happen. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into pious living entities in the sense heavenly planets. Is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. This is Prabhupada. He children ask for toys. They asked for so many things, but he was, more interested in the deities. So, and his father was very, very kind to him. He wanted to do Ratha Yatra at that tender age, and he actually helped him. So all the other Matajis in that street made sweetmeats, and they also helped. They arranged for a Ratha. They put Jagannath, Subhadra, and Baldev, and all the children pulled the cart. So at that age itself, he was, he had the symptoms of a pure devotee. So, if unsuccessful, after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world. If you are born into a family where, grandparents or parents, they're all like devotees and they're actually Vaishnavas, we should think we're very, very fortunate. And we can, take advantage of that. Okay, one more is here. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, like how Parikshit Maharaj attained complete success. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. See, all the advanced yogis, in the previous birth, probably they were advanced yogis. In this life, they are automatically attracted to yoga principles, not so much to the rituals. They are actually attracted to the yoga principles themselves, like, because they're already elevated. That divine consciousness has carried over this lifetime also. See, it said here, "Oh my Lord, persons who chant the holy names of the Lord are far advanced in spiritual life, even if born in families of dog eaters. Such chanters would have already performed all kinds of austerities and sacrifices, bathed in all sacred places, and finished all their studies of the scriptures." If somebody is actually chanting attentively, that means in his previous life or some time, he's actually finished all these different stages. What has he done? He must have done austerities. He must have bathed in all the sacred rivers. He must have studied scriptures. So we have this great example of Haridas Thakur, right? He was born in a Muslim family, Mohammedan family, but he was chanting how many? 300,000 names per day, daily. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, he is a very important disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how merciful Lord Chaitanya is, right? He did not say, no, you have eaten meat and you come from such a family. Sorry, you cannot, I'm not going to talk to you. Nothing like that. You're chanting the Lord's name. You are all, that moment, whatever you did yesterday does not matter. If you want to change today, the Lord is, very happy. He accepted him. He hugged him. He used to take prasad personally every day to go give it to Haridas Thakur. He was not allowed inside the temple because of the family he is coming from. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very, very kind to him. And he personally, right, after he passed away, he did his final rites also. So imagine how kind, how merciful Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. So we don't have to worry about what we did, what we have done yesterday, day before, last 10 years back, nothing. If we are already ready to chant, and it is already understood that we must have already passed through so many ritualistic methods given in the Vedas to come to this stage. That's how, wonderful Krishna consciousness is. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. After so many births, so many lifetimes, he finally, reaches this stage. Unless we are purified, we cannot take up the principles of Krishna consciousness or become engaged in chanting, relishing the holy name of Lord. So, if somebody is relishing chanting, or hearing more and more and trying to engage themselves more and more in, all these devotional activities, that means they're actually becoming purified. So taking up to Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, we can get this, mercy from Prabhupada directly, which is he's guiding us so nicely. So we can get that mercy, and actually Bhakti Yoga surpasses all other yogas. It is the ultimate stage. So we are already getting that kind of knowledge and devotional service, everything. So all other processes are like step by step. We go one step at a time, but we will never be able to achieve this stage in one lifetime, and our life is very short. So chanting and kirtan, hearing, whatever service we can do, how we live, how we trying to help others also, everything, all this is very, very important. And all this, the chanting of the holy name itself enlightens our soul, Prabhupada says, and that itself brings us to the stage of complete knowledge. So Bhakti Yoga includes knowledge. It doesn't mean they're just sitting and chanting, not like that. They already understand who is the Lord, what is their position, and everything. So it includes and surpasses all the other yoga systems. Nishkama Karma Yoga, that yoga, Jnana Yoga, everything. Bhakti Yoga includes and surpasses all other yogas. So yogis are greater than empiricists, fruitive workers, and ascetics. The topmost yogi. Of all yogis, those who with full faith always think of Krishna and render transcendental loving service to him are the highest of all. This is in 6.46 to 6.47. Okay, very beautiful verse. Who would like to recite this one? We have 2 more slides to go and we have finished this.
I'll recite, Mathaji.
Go ahead, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
One moment. योगीनामपि सर्वेषां मद्गतानन्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ततमो मतः. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the, what you said, this Mataji, empiricist.
Yes,
and greater than the fruitative worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Atheisticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Empirical knowledge, jnana, without surrendering to the Lord is also imperfect. Fruitative work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time.
So this is given in the purport also. Asceticism without self-knowledge. Like, asceticism, following lot of austerity, that is asceticism. If no self-knowledge, it is imperfect. Empirical knowledge, jnana, how much ever knowledge you are gathering, if you are not surrendering to the Lord, you cannot progress. Fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. We all are working, right? We have to constantly work in this world. But if you are working without Krishna consciousness, no, we are not making any progress. That's what it means. And if our mind is not controlled and our consciousness is not clear, there is no peace. If there is no peace, there is no happiness. So everything is interlinked. So it's very important. We can control our mind by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Instead of the mind controlling us, just the holy name itself is very powerful. Prabhupada writes that in the purport. This is Roopa Goswami. Radharani personally, is to come and serve them. There are pastimes regarding this. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So Krishna is saying that one who is always thinking about me, he is the perfect yogi. So now we know what to do. So of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga. It is the highest of all. See, all those gopas and gopis, they are not ordinary beings. They're all from Goloka actually. If they have if they have this opportunity of playing with Krishna, running around, interacting with him, assisting him in his pastimes. That means they are very highly, perfect yogis. They are all. They are not ordinary at all. And we know Narad Muni's example also. He was just eating the remnants of the food left by these great sages, and that took him to the next stage. He kept on chanting, reciting the Lord's name. Then he became perfect. He got a spiritual body, eternal. He is Narad Muni. He can go anywhere he wants. He doesn't need any visa, nothing. He can go to any planet. He can enter any place, anywhere in any universe. He has that mercy, it seems, from the Lord. He can really travel nicely. So not everyone gets that opportunity. And he's serving the Lord in Samadhi. He's always thinking about the Lord, Narad Muni. So this is a summary again. So what did Krishna say? Uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy, biggest enemy. And then he said, Bhakti is the highest form of yoga. And from chapter 7, Krishna will start describing Bhakti Yoga elaborately. So the middle 6 chapters are like the secret, pure Bhakti, the cream, most delicious part of the sandwich, like that. So this is what will be covered in the next 6 chapters. It's all about Bhakti Yoga. Then, okay, here. Section 1, advancing in yoga through detached work. Section 2, stage, giving up work. Section 3, further stages in the practice of yoga. Section 4, necessity of controlling the turbulent mind. Section 5, the destination of the unsuccessful yogi. Then, who is the topmost yogi? Okay, so there are 3 levels of secretive knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita. You know that, right? Guhya, Guhyataram, and Guhyatamam. Guhya means a secret. It is like the nature of the soul. I'm a soul. I'm not the body. I'm part and parcel of Krishna, Guhyatara, it's more secret. This is like there are 2 souls. One is super soul. One is soul. That is me, the super soul. Both are in the heart. And our relationship. What is my relationship with the super soul? What is my relationship with the Lord? We are always subservient to the Supreme. We are all servitors. That's all. We'll never be equal to Krishna nor surpass his potencies. Then after that, little more advanced, the Guhyatamam knowledge, the most secret knowledge. In the 9th chapter, Krishna says directly, he says, what should you do? After you know this, what do? You engage your mind in me, think about me, always think about me, become my devotee, offer your obeisances and worship me and be completely absorbed in me. He says all this in the 9th chapter. Then if you do all this, then you will surely come to me. So that's the advanced knowledge. So throughout Bhagavad Gita, one thing we can see that is Krishna's divinity, that he is divine, that is being established, and he is a person, and he is the supreme personality of Godhead. That truth is also being established in all these different verses. So we must understand that. So in 15th chapter also, there are 15.19 and 15.20. He's talking about the most confidential part of this knowledge, Vedic, what is given in Vedic scriptures, in Bhagavad Gita, everything. 15.19, 15.20. That is mentioned in the purport. You can actually open and read those 2 verses. I'll stop the live stream.